And now that we have that vaccines first strategy in mind, we can fully appreciate this article, where Biden's got pharma's back, where the Biden administration is opposing the sharing of intellectual property internationally so that other countries can make their own vaccines. Where US negotiators have rejected proposals to loosen patent protections, a step that could enable developing countries to quickly make their own versions of the vaccines and drugs like Paxlovid. And with everything we know and in the history we've seen through COVID, this is a very striking stance by the US, because all of these countries share data about the virus and the variants so that vaccines can be appropriately developed and targeted to the emerging variants. So these developing countries are sharing this data, but they're not getting anything in return. The rich countries are hoarding most of the vaccines. Where the US is saying this gibberish here that's basically saying, it's for me, not for thee. Where the US sees this erosion of intellectual property rights internationally as an existential threat to their business model, and that the Biden administration is not willing to break this business model. Where leaders of developing countries are saying they're not looking for more charity, they just want equitable access to drugs and vaccines in future pandemics. Where if a agreement is not made, then we're going to miss our chance to make history, and this could be a missed opportunity for which future generations may not forgive us. And the US doesn't seem to be the only country that's doing this. Some European nations, including Germany, have also sided with their drug makers. Where the big worry is that the US wants all the sharing of technology or removing of intellectual property barriers or financing to be on a voluntary basis and on mutual agreement, which means leaving the world to be under the will of pharmaceutical companies and rich countries. And as COVID's not a disease that respects national boundaries due to travel, it's absolutely wild that the countries like the US are not advocating for this global effort. Because it's pretty outlandish that countries like Bangladesh and other countries in Africa, Asia, and Latin America are expected to provide pathogen data that the drug makers then use to develop vaccines and drugs, but they're not going to get the benefits of those vaccines. That's a completely one-sided relationship, which would then make a country think, well, why would I provide you with this data if I'm not going to get any benefits out of it? Which is not a way we want to go. Where these countries very candidly stated that what we don't want is that we agree to very strict obligations in terms of prevention and surveillance, but what we do want is the benefit sharing, the flexibilities in intellectual property, the funding, and all that remains open to be discussed in the future. Where the next treaty negotiations are scheduled for February 19th in a couple weeks, so this is something that we can put active pressure on in support of IP sharing internationally so that other countries can also make vaccines and drugs in a part of our global effort to fight back against COVID.